So after 525,600 minutes, Piers Morgan finally admits that he's been on the wrong side of the genocide argument regarding Israel's actions in Gaza. He said to Mehdi Hassan while he had him on his program that he's resisted going as far as Mehdi and others regarding the genocide happening in Gaza, but he can resist no more. He even mentioned Smotrich in his recent interviews, where he basically spells it out that their plans are to eliminate all Palestinians from Gaza and relocate the ones they don't eliminate.
I have resisted going as far as you have done in your criticism of the Israeli government. I resist no more. I think we've reached common ground about what we view is happening and has been happening through this period of this blockade, which frankly is just starvation of the people there, including so many innocent young women and children. And I think that the incessant bombing and killing, and we don't know how many civilians have been killed, but it is on a daily basis. It looks like hundreds of people every day, with no apparent attempt, it seems to me, to have any real plan for how this ends or what happens when it ends, other than if you look at what Smotrich has been saying, probably the most right-wing member of a very right-wing government, he is talking in a genocidal language about kicking all the Palestinians out. So I think you and I have reached a place in the last few weeks where we are in agreement.
My question to Piers would be, what the fuck are you waiting for? Somebody to slow clap for you? Was you waiting for us to be like, oh man, congratulations, Piers. It's so good to see you on the right side of history. Finally. No, Piers, you've been wrong for like 2 years, and it's very clear that you have been purposefully ignorant. For example, trying to use Smotrich's recent comments as if that was the final nail in the coffin for believing Israel's intention to commit genocide in Gaza. I quite literally do not have enough time to put into this video how many politicians from Israel, from Bibi Netanyahu to Smotrich to every other politician, how many times they've said their intention is to kill everybody and that not a single Palestinian in Gaza is innocent. And when people had brought this up to you in the past, you know what you always said? But do you condemn Hamas?
I'm simply asking,
But would you agree with
I'm
me?
simply asking you, do you unreservedly condemn the
I
slaughter
condemn
of 260
I
innocent people?
condemn.
It's one of the reasons why you're not so keen to condemn what Hamas did on October the 7th, because you're fearful of publicly doing that. Are all Palestinians fearful of speaking out against Hamas? Will you now take the opportunity to condemn what Hamas did on October the 7th? Final, I only ask you one more time.
So all it took was one other mainstream media talking on the internet guy who uses Gaza to get views while still propping up the people who have basically enabled Israel to commit this genocide, to go onto your program, the program of another mainstream media talking on the internet guy, so that you could finally admit what we all knew to be true, and so did you? Nah, you don't get no credit for that, bro. Now, when I saw this, I had to go see what Piers Morgan's biggest fan, George Galloway, had to say about this because of the beef that they've had over this very issue in numerous appearances on Piers' program. And funny enough, I ended up coming across this poll where George asks his audience, is Piers Morgan Israel's useful idiot? And 95% of people said yes. But given the information we know about who owns Piers Morgan, I don't know if we can actually say that he's being holistically a useful idiot for Israel as much as he is being exactly who he's paid to be and saying exactly what he's paid to say. Because just calling him a useful idiot would imply that he doesn't know what he's doing and doesn't know what he has been doing for the last 2 years. But beyond that, during an interview with George Galloway, low-key, the rapper and political commentator reminds us that Piers Morgan's show is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Now, ExpressVPN is owned by an Israeli company called Kate Technologies. And Kate Technologies is owned by this man, Israeli billionaire and businessman Teddy Sagi. So like I said, calling Piers Morgan a useful idiot would imply he doesn't know who he's working for, when we all know that's probably not true. But also, let's be honest, next week, depending who's on his show, he'll probably switch it up and sing a different tune like he always does, because it's Piers Morgan. So no, Piers, we're not going to congratulate you just because you finally arrived at the conclusion that there's a genocide being committed in Gaza without a caveat. We're not going to pretend as if you haven't seen the same pictures of dead babies being blown apart that we've seen. We're not going to pretend like you haven't heard 2 years worth of comments from Israeli politicians spelling out their genocidal intentions like we've heard. And we're not going to pretend like we didn't see you ignore many people who've already gone on your program and spelled out the facts for you, while you purposely chose to ignore them. Don't get me wrong, there are some people who genuinely receive new information and change their position based on that new information. But that's not Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan is just Johnny come lately trying to take advantage of the fact that it's becoming more allowable to call this a genocide. And in this particular case, Johnny come lately can go kick rocks. We don't need you. We needed you 2 years ago without all the caveats. Because no, we still don't condemn Hamas for trying to get back the thousands of Palestinian hostages that Israel took long before October 7th and still have long after October 7th. Because according to international law, the oppressed, those who have had their land taken by invaders, those who are being occupied, have the right to fight back. And that has not changed.